Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started. What's going on, bro?
Very well. Got it's 5:30 here. We'll be done probably by 6. I have a quick call with Ryan, just checking on something. And I've got a call with the intimacy coach with Amelia at 6:30. So that'll be good.
Nice, nice. I got a call with a guy from the Brotherhood right after this. So we
Nice.
definitely will be ending on time. You know me
Nice.
and being late, buddy. You know me and being late. I got the whole Vince Lombardi idea. I think it was him that said, on time is late. So
I
that's just the way I operate. It's been drilled in my head. You've got
thought you
the
meant you're always late.
what's that?
When you said, me and being late, I said, yeah, you're always late.
Not the case. Not the case. I'm always on time, even if I am late. So anyway, that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is, when I look back at my business career, I started businesses really young, my early 20s. Of course, one business begat two. Then next thing I know, I have 3 companies I'm running in my 20s. Pretty crazy for someone like myself to go in through. But one of the problems I had was, as a business owner, we talk about it, is you just never shut off. You just can't turn the switch off. And I remember having this conversation. It was actually with what we call over here a Chinese medicine doctor, right? Or a doctor of Oriental medicine is what it was called. I don't think that's politically correct anymore, but that's what his title was at the time. And he brought it up to me. He was doing some tests on me, and he was a friend, as we talked about in the previous thing. He was a branch, but a very thin branch. But he had all these degrees, and he was a brilliant man. And he said, Doug, come over. I want to do some assessments on you, some tests. And I was at the time helping him out, doing some coaching just as a nice thing to do. And he asked me about switching off. Right? He's like, do you ever switch off? Like, you're running so, I think it was hot, is the analogy he used, but you're running, your adrenals are just like fatigued or fried. Right? He's like, I'm having trouble, Doug, running one business, yet you're running 2 and 3, and yours are much more successful than me. And you're going out and you're doing all these things. And I was very social at the time, Tim. But I couldn't switch off. Now fast forward, and I'll tell you what he told me when that comes into this. And I kind of dismissed what he told me a little bit. And then I'm married, and I'm still in that same state, right? I'm running multiple companies. Now I'm consulting as well because I'm doing well. People want to know how you're doing it. Things are going well, but I'm not switching off. I'm getting home, and guess what I'm thinking?
Cocktail.
Food, sex, work.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things, to think about. Like, I'm ready to get some more stuff done. I want to talk about work, right? This is what happened in my day. This is I'm passionate about it. I'm going through, but I wasn't able to switch off. There was no turning off for me from the work. The weekend would come, and my wife would want to go do something fun. I would too. So I'd wake up earlier so I could work. She didn't want me to get out of bed, so I'd stay up later, or whatever it was. And I found myself almost cheating on my marriage with my business, right? The sense that I was almost hiding, trying to get stuff done, get work done, or be in work conversations in some
Mhm.
ways. Have you ever found yourself doing that?
Yeah, I was just thinking, cheating on your business with your marriage.
Yeah, that's more what it's like sometimes. Look the
Yeah,
other
of
way.
course, of course. And do you know what? For me, it's always about where it comes from, right? Like last night, I was uh, texting you, I think, at 10 p.m. Amelia was in the living room. She was watching a show. And I finished up quite late last night. Finished at 8 p.m. around then anyway. Made us dinner and we ate together. We were talking a little bit, and my mind was just racing. And in the past, what I've done is I have then sat in the living room with Amelia and kept on talking to her, or just watched whatever show she wanted to watch, just to hang out with her and be with her. And my mind's still racing all the time. And then go to bed and obviously can't sleep because I've not given myself any space to just calm down. So last night, I recognized that and I said, hey, I'm just going to go be on my own for a bit. And I'm going to go have silence. I'm going to journal. And she's like, what do you mean? You're leaving me again? And I'm like, yeah, I've got to go do this. So I'll be back soon. Um, anyway, went and journaled and just sat there on the bed in just peace and breathed and just calmed down and got everything out of my head. I wanted to get out all the thoughts that were racing around, and it was great. And at the end of it, I felt super chill, and then started texting you, and then got excited again. And I'm like, shit, I've got to stop this. But the point I'm making is, it came from a place of excitement. It didn't come from a place of anxiousness or fear, right?
Yeah.
So when it's from, there's a fine line as well. In my experience, there's a fine line. But then last night, obviously, I struggled to sleep as well because, obviously, like I said, we were texting. So, yes, I've struggled with it. Even last night when I was then texting you, I felt like, oh, shit, I told Amelia comes in now. I said I'd just be journaling, which I was, but I'd just finished. She's going to think I've just been on my phone. I feel like I'm sneaking off and taking your phone. I'm just going to go to the toilet, take your phone with you, and you fucking, you know. So,
I know, in the bathroom, right? I gotta go to the bathroom again. You're texting away.
so yeah, is the answer.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? So a lot of the men that we work with talk about not being able to turn off when coming back from work. So we obviously, as a lot of guys that listen to this, we have the Alpha Rise and Shine program. It dovetails into the Live Like a King system, but we also have the decompression cheat sheet, right? But we all, and above and beyond, these are just cheat sheets, not just full trainings. We have full trainings for these guys on how to decompress after work. And some of that comes from this conversation I had in my 20s. Now I'm in my 40s now, but with this gentleman. And one of the things he said is that, Doug, have you ever done martial arts? I was like, well, yeah, I have. I've studied martial arts in the past. And so he said, okay, well, what do you do, in a traditional martial art? What do you do when you leave after you've been training, learning to fight, learning to do all these things? What's one of the things you do? Well, my answer was, like, you bow. You bow to the dojo, the studio itself, the facility, not just the instructor, but the actual facility upon exiting, right? Traditional Korean, Japanese, and Chinese martial arts, right? You'll do that. And he said, exactly. He said, how are you bowing out from work? Oh, and my response is a 20-year-old, what? like, dude, I got a happy hour coming up, man. I got a couple girls I want to go on dates with. Let's get this conversation going. So, but his point is how are you ending your day and signifying that your workday is over? He said, the reason you bow at a dojo is because you've been in fighting mode. You've been learning to fight, to defend yourself, to maybe be aggressive. And bowing signifies to your mind and to your psyche that you are going through a transition. You're going out into the real world. He said, Doug, if you went out into the real world with that energy, right? With that energy, you'd be aggressive. The chances of you getting in a fight would be very high, right? Energy, like attracts like. You'd attract somebody right away. Some guy would stare at you. You'd stare back. Boom, you go at it. So you want to change that energy. And he said, Doug, the same thing goes with your work. How are you going to transition? And so, Tim, one of the things that I developed out of that conversation, which I lost and then reapplied to my relationship, is I will leave the door of my office and I'll just hit the door frame. Right? That signifies a transition. A transition now for me going into husband mode or dad mode or friend mode or whatever it is. And of course, coming in, I can hit it again. These are called triggers, right? If you studied NLP or anything else, these are called, ways that you can actually, or excuse me, anchors, not triggers. These are anchors that trigger a response that you can put into your day. That doesn't mean you always do it. Am I perfect? No, right? By any means. But by using this practice, I'm able to turn off a little bit. Now I work from home by choice, and I have for 5-6 years. But even before, when I was at my office, right? So as you know, Tim, I had a big wellness studio with an office above it. I would walk out and I would hit the door frame to signify that I'm leaving the work behind. Now, I still did things. I have my phone and my laptop, and I would get stuff done at home. The point is, it would be a dramatic shift in my energy, right? I'm leading multiple companies. That means I'm the boss all the time. And then if I go out with friends or with girlfriends and I'm the boss, they don't want to be around that guy, right? Hey Tim, get the salt shaker. Hey, or just get over here, ordering everybody around at a restaurant. That's not fun. So you have to have that transition. The same thing goes, guys, with having that transition coming from your work, especially with COVID right now. A lot of guys who are used to being in big offices, right, are sitting in a spare bedroom or, or somewhere else, or maybe a basement, right? Some place that they've made their office. You need to even more so have those transitionary periods. One of the guys I was talking to that I know, and he does this transitionary practice, but he takes it to an extreme, right? To switch off. He's like, Doug, basically, I need to switch roles. I need some kind of mechanism to make sure. So he wears a hat backwards at the end of work because that to signify he's in dad mode. He wears a lot of hats, right? Little baseball caps, hats. But also throughout the day, he changes his clothes. So he might be on a podcast, he'll wear one thing. When a podcast is over and he has to task switch to something else he does, maybe it's coaching, he literally changes his wardrobe, right? He said, at the very least, I change my shoes. Because what I'm doing is I'm telling my brain, I'm changing personas, I'm changing energies, I'm changing who I am. Now, I don't go that far. I've played with changing the clothes. It's not my thing. But having your thing is really important. Tapping the door, getting out. But like you said, if you've got things going on, you just get them out. Like, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to go journal. And something else you did that I want to recognize you for, Tim, is Amelia's like, what, you're leaving me again? That's a shit test. Right? Are you going to be the deer who defends, who makes up excuses, right? Are you going to be doing that? Or are you going to be the wolf? Remember, the wolf eats the deer at the end of the day, right? And deer is an acronym for defend, excuse, explain, rationalize. And that's a submitting thing. So you weren't the deer, you were the wolf. You said, hey, I'll be back. And you went and did what you had to do. And then you came in back to the relationship.
Do you know what? Obviously, I use the alpha decompression a lot. I don't necessarily always run through every single step. In fact, I do for the most part, because even just, obviously, A, for those guys that don't know, A stands for attune, which is attuning your energy, which could be the tapping of the door, could be the change of the clothes. For me, I do change my clothes in the workday, take the powerful man stuff off, put other clothes on that I'll chill out with Amelia in. L stands for lessons, H stands for honor wins, and P stands for plan the next day. So if you journal, the way that we do it anyway, you're going to cover all those in one very easily. And then the final A just stands for accept the day's over. So for me, increasing the transition time is something that's really important. Because when you work from home, the time it takes to go from upstairs to downstairs, at least for me, it's just not enough time to really relax. Because like you said, when you're in that mode of being the boss, a mistake I used to make was looking at Amelia and my relationship through the same problem-solving lens that served me so well in business. Like you said, no one wants to be around that guy when they, are not in the workplace, right? So this is a huge piece. We spoke with one guy last week who said, guys, I just never used to know it. I thought I was crushing it in business. I'd be driving home from the office, 45-minute drive. I'd be taking calls all the way home from customers. I'd pull up at home on the drive, walking through the door. So really his transition time was from getting out of the car, walking in through the door. And then my wife would start with all of her day, and I just couldn't deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it. I've been leading all day at work. I don't want to lead when I get home, which is a big part of the problem that leads into deers and a lack of intimacy and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, what he said was just understanding this and applying the decompression and making that drive home mine. And he'd do just change his breathing during that drive home. He would do a little bit of journaling beforehand. He'd reflect on his day. He'd pull up in the car park. Yeah, I think he had a thing he did with the steering wheel, kind of like tapping the office, tapping the door frame. So by that time he'd got out of the car, and he walked in through the door, he was in husband mode, right? Ready to be the lover. and not walking through the door and not having anything left to give, and instead then turn his lover into his mother, right? By ignoring her and her cleaning and picking up after him and cooking and everything else. So this topic and transition time is huge.
Huge. And when you're listening to you, I'm like, oh, you know what? I actually do that with Voxers. I'll walk upstairs, listening to Voxers as I'm doing stuff, or in the car, coming back from the gym. Sometimes without transitions, but I'll talk to my wife. She'll come to talk to me. She'll be excited that I'm at home, right? She's excited to see me. And I'll be like, hold on, I'm into something. I'll get back to you, that you're important. I'm going to come back. And I give her a time. Come back in an hour, 20 minutes later. But this reminds me of, so when I lived in Santa Barbara, California, I lived there for 20 years. One of the guys that I knew was, trying to see how I cannot give up his name. He was a partner for a company before Zoom was around that did something very similar, right? So he was a partner, very successful man, super intelligent and successful. And every time he would come home, his partner, who wasn't married, his partner would lock the doors and put his running shoes outside.
I've heard the story, yeah.
I've told you the story before.
Yeah.
She required that he go for a run before he comes home, because otherwise he came home, he had work energy,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do it. Now, he had a beautiful home over the ocean, really nice place. So he goes for a run. He ran every day, right? Not some days farther, some days not. But that act of running was his whole trigger mechanism to get him to let the day go. Phenomenal shape too. You can imagine running. But she wouldn't let him come in the door, right? He had keys, obviously. He'd come in. She'd be like, go for a run. Because she knew, right? She loved him and knew him well enough that knew that he'd bring this energy in. She's like, hey, I want to have hot sex. I want to sit by and have a glass of wine overlooking the ocean. And we can't do any of that if you're in that energetical force.
Mm-hmm.
Solid relationship, great couple. But that's how he did. His transition was going for a run.
Yep.
And you get to find yours, guys. What is yours? The story that you can't turn off is just that. It's a story.
Yeah. I like to put my phone on flight mode as well. That's kind of like my tap in the door. I'll change my clothes, do the journaling, maybe a little bit of breath work, nothing intense, and turn my phone on. I love it when I turn my phone on flight mode. I just kind of throw it.
Yeah.
Just throw it onto the bed or the sofa or wherever. It's like, feels good.
We have a guy in an inner circle. So the inner circle is our level above the brotherhood. Men that commit, want more desire. They want more accessibility to the coaches. A guy in the inner circle, he's been addicted to his phone for so long, and it's been caused so much strife in his marriage, but also with his kids and disconnect, that he's planning on getting a flip phone. He's going to keep his smartphone, but keep a smartphone either at work or in the car, and get a flip phone for emergencies, right? Just so if an emergency happens, cool. He can get a hold of somebody, or he can call. And, what you can do, guys, there's all kinds of ways of doing this. You don't have to go to that extreme, but you need to figure out what your transition is and how you're going to switch, whether you're going to switch clothes like Tim does, or my other friend I was mentioning, or whether you're going running, or what it is you're doing after work. But you need to have that transition beforehand. Guess what? Your wife does too. She's taking care of the kids and you want to have sexy time. She needs a transition, right? She needs a transition from being mom all day, basically leeches all over her, right? Mom, I need this. Mom, I need that. Mom, I need this, to being your lover, right? And you brought up an old episode we did, is how not to turn your lover into your mother.
Yeah. How are you making your mother your lover? Are you making your lover your mother?
Look that up, guys. Right? I call it the pick up your clothes analogy. Right? Go listen to that episode and see if that resonates with you, and that's a good transition point to look into.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tim, give these guys a couple takeaways as we wrap this one up.
Have a look. Right? You always got to know where you are. So, what is your decompression routine? Maybe you don't have one. Right? Just have a look. Start there. Just assess where you're at. Maybe you're like the guy who's taking calls all the way home and then walks into the door, and his transition time is just walking from the car to the door, Maybe it's now going from upstairs to downstairs. Have a look at how you're currently doing this and the impact it's having, right? Are you really present? Are you really listening to your wife when she's wanting to share with you her day? Chances are you're probably not if you've not got any transition time. And the second thing is figure out what it is you want to do, right? Obviously, I shared with you the alpha decompression, what those letters stand for. Do that. Or you could choose to just try the clothes or try the dojo idea or the running shoes. Just find something. And my advice to you would make it be something to experience, right? Not another thing to actually just achieve and tick off. Because my bet is that guy who had his running shoes outside, if he would have put those on and gone for the run and been like, right, just gotta get this run done, gotta get it done, gotta get it done, gotta get it. He would have been pretty much the same energy when he got back from the run, but it probably wasn't that. It probably went on his run as a way to decompress. It was more of an experience for him, was that run. Obviously, he probably beat his times from time to time and all the rest of it, but it would have been an experience, right? So that's part of the key. You got to shift that energy. So make it, whatever routine you come up with, make it be something for you to experience, because you've got to change that lens through which you look at the people around you. The problem-solving lens that serves you so well in business, that's not the lens to look at the people you love, especially your wife.
So true. And I'll add one more thing, guys, is like the guy that went for a run, choose something positive. So many of us business leaders, I know, at least I used to, is you go happy hour or have a cocktail, right? The signal that the day is over, right? The work day is over. I can relax now. Whereas my friend, he went for a run. He was in great shape. He was older, right? He was older than the other guys. We played competitive sport together, and he was older and he was in better shape than guys half his age. Wow. Just a choice. So make your choices wisely. Gentlemen, as always, as we wrap this up, take action. Figure out what yours is, right? If you're new to the show, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. Get your free training there. And again, as I say before, if you've been with us for a while and you're enjoying the show, I invite you to not only share the show, but leave a rating. That's how other men like you around the world find this information and this conversation. And it would mean a lot to me and Tim as well personally that you just took time to leave an honest review and drop us a note. All right, gentlemen, as always, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here, so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated, because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.